Hey guys, welcome to the shop. I have got a ton to do. What? I gotta face the back of our casting. We gotta clean up the indexing ring. I've gotta scribe the lines. I gotta set up the shaper. Tons of stuff to do. And if we don't get started now, we'll never get finished. So let's go in here and get some of this done. Alright guys, in our last video, we worked on our indexing angle plate. What we did is we scribed some lines on this, on the shaper, on the rotary table, and I determined that 1/1000th of an inch, or I'm sorry, 1 degree is plenty, easily distinguishable from each other as far as our index lines that we need to scribe. This was just a practice piece. We made our real piece, or our permanent piece, and this is just a piece of carbon steel, and we trepanned it out on the lathe. This is still not, finished, and nowhere near finished. I have not put the index lines on it yet, and I have not faced this back section, so this will have a good even surface to ride on. This is going to go in here. It's going to be held on with one bolt, big T-bolt, and then I'll have some sort of little marker to determine which line we're on when we go to index it. So what we need to do is I need to face this. I'm set up in the lathe to do that, so I'm going to get you up high and we can get started. Alright guys, we don't have a whole lot of clearance here. We're working real tight, and this is a big piece swinging around here, so we're going to have to be real careful. But we just got a little 60-degree tool in here, a little carbide brazed on, and we're just going to come in here and just clean this up. That's all we want to do. So let's get started. Good. Alright, now we got to drill our hole for a big T-nut that'll hold the piece that we're going to put our index lines on the back, and that'll hold this slug in the casting. We don't have a 37/64, so we're slightly small here. We're going to drill this, and then we're going to come back in with a boring bar and bring it out to about 587 thousandths. That's the plan, and then we'll tap it. So let's do it. On the drilling. Now it's time to tap this guy. Alright, we got our spring center in here. It's loaded, and just tap wrench, pushing it in. Got the lathe in low gear. any oil on this guy. Stainless is a nightmare. Alright. Looking pretty good so far, and the tapped hole is real nice. I like the slug diameter is okay. It's a little bit offset because this casting is just slightly warped, so it's a little proud on more on one side than the other, but it's just something I'm going to have to live with unless I want to profile the outer part of this casting and it'd just be for looks, and I'm not gonna do that. But turned out real nice. The slug and the threading. Now we've got to take this over to the shaper and set it in the forejaw and indicate it in, and then come in and swipe it. Make sure we get a good, parallel plane with the movement of the shaper. That way we can come in and scribe our lines on it. I'm really pleased with the way that this locks up. As far as, I was a little concerned that this one, thumb screw or finger screw, whatever you want to call it, T-bolt, would not be enough to adequately lock this ring, up. But it is. It locks more than good enough. I mean, you're not gonna turn this without intentionally doing it, unless you hit it real hard or something. But I'm gonna have to put my pointer for my to point at my graduations. I'm going to have to put it on this leg here. I can't put it on the top. It'd be nice if I could put a pointer here, but I can't do that and keep this accurate because this top is not fixed, and it rotates at least a couple degrees probably, or a degree or so, and every time you want to index this, you're going to have to loosen the top to turn it. So I'm going to have to put my pointer down here on this webbing. And I think that'll be just fine. That's the plan anyway. I'll probably make it out of brass. But let's go get this set up on the shaper, and I'll bring you back and we'll scribe some lines on it. Alright guys, now I've had a night to think on this, and I've also read all the comments from my last video, or from, the last video that I done on this. And there's always something to add, and since I have this fancy pants tool room shaper table that tilts, I had a commenter, Matt from Look Creations, suggests that I, incorporate, a bevel, on this, to bevel this outside edge, and scribe my lines on that. And that would be really nice. I think that would look good, but that creates a lot of extra issues. I'm going to have to, if I choose to do that, put a bevel on the edge before I scribe my lines on here. I'll have to raise this puck, or whatever you want to call it, the back plate, up off of this vise a little, because I can't come in here and work this, on the shaper like it is, because I'll run into my vise jaws. I could take this and put this on the lathe and put a small bevel on the edge, but then, I'd have to, exactly replicate that bevel, or that angle, which wouldn't be too bad, but, then there you go, changing things. It's easier to do everything in one setup if you can, or on the same machine. You end up with a better product, or at least I do, So I may do that. I may actually come in here. I'll have to make an arbor to hold this up out of the chuck a little. Use the rotary table with the shaper, bevel this edge, and then come in and make my marks on that bevel. That'll bring those lines back closer to the casting, where this is, on the back of the casting. That'll bring my pointer and everything closer together, and it'll look good. So I may do that. But the first thing that I need to do is plane this top and think on that a little more. So let's spring in and cut this top, and we'll go from there. Alright, I need to get this guy going and zero this cutter. I'm going to try this. I've got my clapper, well, I'm not going to be running that fast, so I don't think it's going to matter, but I've got the clapper just kind of secured, not tight, just secured. Help if I lock this. Man, I need to be more careful than that. It could cause big problems. This is going to go slow. We're just trying to get a nice finish on it. Decent. Hopefully this will clean it up. And that could have been bad. Easy mistakes to make. Alright guys, I want to show you, can you see that transition there? That line there? Well, that is where, we started with no oil on the surface and then we applied it. I mean, it's a lot more obvious probably to the naked eye than it is to the camera, but it made a big difference. So just a little info there, but yeah, kind of surprised. A lot more galling on this surface, right this area here. You can see the whole line there. But yeah, galling on the surface without oil. Definitely better to use it. Just a little side note. Alright, now we're gonna run a shear bit over this to see if we can get a better surface. And not that this is bad, but I'd like it a little better than what it is. guys, we got our piece off the lathe, or off the shaper, and pretty good finish. You know, not perfect, but good enough. We got our slug here, and it had these two existing holes in it. You know, I don't know what they were originally, but I tapped these 3/8 16 because they were already the perfect size for the 3/8 16 tap. And I want to transfer these holes onto this slug so I can bolt this slug, or this plate, to this slug. But, you know, I didn't want to measure it and possibly get it wrong. Not that that's, you know, not a pretty basic operation, but this is probably a little more definite. I got a 3/8 16 stud here, and I just took it on the lathe and machined a little spike on it. That way I can screw it in here. And, you know, I know I'm centered now. So take this, my center screw, snug it down a little bit. Just take something light, like a little mallet. Just tap it. And there we have it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but divot, divot. Now all I gotta do is drill those, and I know that those holes will line up with these. Just a quick little simple thing, you know, if you ever can use it, it's pretty good. They make these, you know, you can buy these little transfer things. I forget what they're called, but you can buy them in a kit, you know, of all different thread sizes, and they're pretty handy. I don't have a set because they're kind of, you know, it's just one of those things that you don't use a lot and don't really need all the time, but they are nice, and that's what you'd use that for. Alright guys, you can see that I've got the universal table tilted at 15 degrees. I've got our 2 bolt holes drilled, and I got it fastened to the slug. Instead of making an arbor to hold this up so I could come in, you know, make a land all the way around this, I just decided to bolt it to the slug itself. I think that'll be, you know, more than adequate. Plus we had those holes there existing anyway, so I used them. They were the perfect size already for you know, 3/8 16 bolts. So I just tapped them out, bolted our back plate to the slug, and set this up 15 degrees, and I'm going to come in here, like I said, and make a land here. And you know, the idea is that I'll come in here and I'll make a small land. Not only will it thin this out on the edge and bring this edge closer to the back of the casting, so I don't have to have such a tall pointer, but it'll give a place for the line to both enter and exit and leave no burr. This was, you know, Matt from Look Creations kind of gave this idea. Not kind of, he did. Gave me this idea, and I hope it works. It complicates things a bit, but I don't guess it really matters at this point. You know, and I could probably put this in the lathe and just turn a land on it real quick and easy, but you know, I want them to perfectly match, and this is one way that I'll achieve that. I'm starting off at its maximum tilt, which is 15 degrees, and that'll give me the shortest land. And if I want it to be longer, I can, you know, keep lowering the table to get a wider land. You know, so we'll see. This is gonna be slow. I'm gonna start off, you know, real easy and just come away and chip it away at this. This is gonna take a while, so we'll see. You know, I didn't want to bite down. You know, this is a fairly thin. This is the face of the slug. I didn't want to squeeze it with these jaws, so I had to put these pieces of aluminum in here, and so it took a little while. This setup kind of took a little time. So anyway, that's the deal. That's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna get you a good angle, a little in here, a little tighter, you know, and we'll get started. Alright guys, we're just going to start off real slow. Obviously I'm not in that big a hurry, or I wouldn't be doing this operation on the shaper, so I just hope that it all holds in here well and we don't have any problems. So I'm just going to chip away at this guy and see how it acts, and we'll go from there. Kind of testing to see what kind of cut I can get, how deep I can go. You know, I'm sure I'll have to make a couple rounds, but you know, I don't want to put too much stress on this guy and throw it out on the floor. That would suck. Alright, that first pass didn't take near as long as I thought it would. Really not that bad. Of course this is, you know, this is lathe work here, but why not do it on the shaper, you know, just for fun. That's all this is about anyway. So, I'm going to cut a little deeper and make another round. I sped up the stroke a little bit. We're at 129 strokes a minute. And a little about 1.5 inch stroke. Alright guys, this has turned out really good. It took forever, and it's probably the most inefficient way to make a bevel on a ring that I've ever seen. But it worked out well. I got a really nice finish on it. You know, it's surprising how well it worked. You know, it just definitely, like I said, not ideal. But I'm glad I've done it, you know, just to do it. This is neat setup. So I'm pretty much ready to scribe the lines, or I'm getting real close. I've got my cutter in here, and I've got it, you know, squared away. Like I believe I'd said before, you know, I just set my fishtail gauge on here and squared it up, made sure I'm coming down through the center, you know, these two bolts, and, you know, determine the zero, or starting point. Gotta put a little Dykem on this guy, just to get me started. The finish, like I said, is real nice. I mean, you could probably get it better with an end mill or in the lathe, I'm sure. But this is just straight line, pretty unique, you know, shaper finish. But I like it. So I'm gonna Dykem this up to where I can see real good. And my plan is to do my 1 degree lines, or, you know, 360 1/4 inch lines, 1/4 inch long. And then every 5 degrees, I'll do, that line will be 3/8 of an inch long, and then every 10 degrees, they'll be all the way across this face. Now this face is a 1/2 inch wide. Yeah. Give or take, you know, a few thousandths. Yeah. 1/2 inch wide. So I'm just going to mark it for 1/4. You can get it. And mark a quarter. Roundabout. I'll let that Dicom dry. So I'm just going to mark it quarter, 3/8, and no reason to mark the 1/2 inch because it'll go all the way through. And then I'll bring you back when we're ready to scribe. Looks pretty good. I'm going to advance a degree and try see what it looks like pulling in, instead of 5 and 5, just a full 10 cut. See what it looks like. One degree. Burr breaks off pretty easy. It leaves a little bitty nub, but I can just take a light file and get that off. It looks pretty good. I don't know if I want to go. It's not very deep though. Just go a couple more. The 13s. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. I'm going to back up and do this one again. Okay, yeah, I like that. I'm just going to leave it right there. Oh, went the wrong way. Yeah, it does that just fine. It's a hair over 1/4 inch long, but it'll be fine. I want them to be deep enough to where they'll take color fill, and I can sand over them without having to worry about, going too deep. Look real good. Probably about as exciting as watching paint dry though. looks neat though, and it does a great job. I wouldn't want to try this with a hydraulic shaper. I've never owned a hydraulic shaper, but I've heard that controlling the stroke length on one, precisely can be a little tough. I've never owned one. That's just what I've heard. But the mechanical shaper, it's the same every time. You lock it down, it goes back to the exact same spot. You can stop precisely. Pretty neat. It's curling up those little burrs just the same every single time. The rotary table, if you ever go past your number, if you want to go back farther so you take that backlash out of it, because it would be wrong if I just went past it a little like that and then went back, that'd be wrong. Just to take the backlash out, tap it up to its number. 20 years from now, we'll be finished. Alright, all 360 marks are on here, the short ones anyway. I said I was going to do the short ones first, medium, then long, but I've changed my mind because I'm on what I'm going to consider 0 here, and I'm going to have 0 be a long mark. So I'm going to do every 10 degrees all the way across this little bevel here. I'm going to do my 10, then I'll come back and do every 5, which will be my medium length line. So let's scribe the first long line and see how that works out. Looks good. All the way across. nice and clean. And then do another 10. Alright, we got all our 10-degree marks on, and they look real good. All the marks are really nice so far, and I just hope to get around this without making any mistakes. So here's going to be our first 5-degree. Yeah, it's good. There we go. That's it. Guys, this has turned out wonderful. I'm really, really happy with it. It sure was a lot of work. I put these 2 bolts in it, in order to, because it had 2 existing holes in the back of the slug. This is, of course, the back. So I just utilized those and threaded them and then tapped this back plate. So I can permanently attach it if I want to. Not permanently, but securely lock it, for the times when you don't need to, zero it or whatever. Or, you can take these out, and twist it and zero it if you want. That was the plan. There is, a place where you just say, okay, this is good enough, and you stop. I just haven't necessarily found that yet, but so we can zero it and then lock it, and it's more than locked, good enough. That brass really seems to hold it well, this brass nut. But you can see I got half of it, deburred or knocked them all off. They come off real easy, and then I just took a little dull file and just knocked the little tip that was left behind down, to where it was even with the surface. Then I took a diamond file and went over it, and then just a translucent India stone, or translucent Arkansas. It ain't finished, but it looks pretty good. The definition in the lines is great. I went down 13/1000ths of an inch, and I think that was a good call. It really, the lines are real sharp. They all stop exactly where they should, and I'm more than pleased with this. Let me bring you in close and get you a better shot of it. Well, I couldn't resist. I just went ahead and cleaned it all the way up. I couldn't stop. I got to picking at the little, burrs, and just decided to, finish it on out. And man, it looks really good. Much better than I really, thought it would. So I had cleaned up the shaper too. It was bothering me, so it was filthy. Those little shavings from the, doing a shear with using a shear bit. Those things get everywhere and are really, can wreak havoc on a machine because they're so fine they can get up in between and under things. So it was eating me up, so I had to clean it off. And while I was at it, I went ahead and deburred this. I just want to thank everybody so far, who's gave me, good suggestions and stuff. And, I don't want anybody, if I didn't use your suggestion, I don't want you to think that it wasn't good. It's just if I incorporated everybody's good suggestion, that's all I'd never be finished. And I really think, that as far as, definition, this is, or, amount of divisions, 360, that's pretty good. I can get it in, hey Chloe, I can get it in, all the way down to the degree, and to be honest, that's probably plenty good enough, I think. I'm not going to try to, break it down any farther than that, at least not right now. Now I got to focus on making my pointer, and I got to focus on, what I'm going to do for the front and the foot. And of course that's all, that's a lot of work. So still a lot to go before I would consider this thing done. But I'd have to say, up until this point, it has really turned out nice, and I'm really pleased with it. So I'm going to bring you in close for real this time and let you get a good look at this thing. Yeah, that's, real nice. Just take these screws out and rotate it. Really no mistakes. The only real mistakes that I made on this that I, have found so far is just in my file work. I wish I'd been a little more careful and got a couple little specks on it, but it's no big deal. I haven't finished, cleaning this up really yet, but it looks really good, and the definition's real good. I can see the lines, very clearly. They're real sharp, and they come to a good stop, and they all come, to a stop really even, and I'm really happy with it. So I think it's really nice. Like I said, the ring holds it real well, or the central T-bolt holds it real well, and I'm happy about that. So that's it so far. That's pretty good, I think. I'm happy with that, man. That's nice. A lot of work though. Well, guys, I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate you guys hanging in this far, and I really appreciate all my subscribers. All my old ones and all my new ones. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit my little guy up here, and make sure to click the bell for notifications. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.